fake, fraud, clown. Those three words, spat across a congressional hearing by President Donald Trump, weren't just an insult. They were the spark that ignited one of the most explosive confrontations in American politics. Over 45 million Americans tuned in live. More than 72% of viewers said they had never seen a hearing this vicious. And within just 24 hours, clips of this clash racked up over 100 million views online. But behind the viral headlines stood a single figure, Jasmine Crockett. She wasn't just defending herself. She was battling an entire machine of power, privilege, and prejudice. What unfolded wasn't a debate. It was a war of words, each sentence sharper than a knife, every moment charged with history's deepest wounds of racism, injustice, and the fight for truth. This was the day Crockett versus Trump became more than politics. It became a reckoning. The gavel struck once, a thunderclap of order. And just like that, the hearing was alive. Donald Trump didn't even wait for the chairman's greeting. He leaned back, lips curling into that familiar smirk, the one that dared anyone to challenge him. "Look at her," he scoffed, loud enough for the entire chamber to hear. "Pathetic, useless, weak." The words landed like grenades. Gasps rippled across the hall. Pens froze in midair. Cameras zoomed in, hungry for the explosion they knew was coming. But Jasmine Crockett didn't flinch. Not a muscle moved. Instead, she rose. Her eyes burned with something deeper than anger. Conviction. Her voice ripped through the silence like a whip. "Shut your filthy mouth, Donald. The only thing pathetic here is a president who hides behind lies and fear." The audience jolted. The room itself seemed to inhale in shock. No polished phrasing, no political theater, just raw, unfiltered defiance. For a split second, Trump's mask slipped. The swagger, the untouchable bravado. It faltered, and online, the eruption was immediate. 3 million people tuned in within the first 3 minutes. By minute 5, the number doubled. Hashtags lit up like wildfire. Danash Crockett unleashed. Danash Trump cornered. The duel was no longer confined to 4 walls. It was global, electric, unstoppable. Trump leaned forward, knuckles white against the desk. "You think you scare me, Jasmine? You're nothing, just noise. A clown with a microphone." She shot back before his last word even faded. "Then why are you trembling, Mr. President? Why does the man who brags about being the toughest in the world shake when a woman tells him the truth?" The chamber ignited. Applause, shouts, gasps. The chairman's gavel hammered for order, but order was gone, drowned beneath the roar of history in motion. Trump's jaw clenched. His fingers stabbed the air, like he could crush her with a single gesture. "You'll regret this, Crockett. You don't know who you're messing with." Her lips curved into a blade of a smile. "Oh, I know exactly who I'm facing. A fraud, a coward. And today, the world will see it too." Those words detonated. In seconds, clips tore through TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, stitched, remixed, memed. One video hit 1 million views before the chamber even moved on to its next sentence. The audience inside leaned forward as if tethered by invisible wires, every breath heavy, every eye glued to the collision unfolding in front of them. Trump tugged at his tie. The redness in his face wasn't just anger, it was exposure. For the first time, it wasn't him dictating the terms. Jasmine didn't blink. She stood steady, shoulders squared, her presence radiating something he could never fake. Courage without fear. And in that instant, the hearing transformed. No longer about witnesses or documents or questions. It was about survival. Theatrics fell away. This was combat, every syllable a strike, every glare a weapon. Trump fought with venom. Jasmine answered with fire. The crowd outside swelled to millions more. Comment sections exploded with disbelief and awe. Some screamed for Trump's downfall, others clung to his defense. But no one looked away. The air in the chamber itself felt charged, like the walls might split under the force of their words. Every insult, every retort carved itself into the memory of everyone watching. This wasn't a debate anymore. It was a cage match fought in sentences and sharpened truths. And everyone watching knew, from this moment forward, Nothing about politics, justice, or power would ever feel the same. If this kind of raw, unfiltered clash grips you, if you want every moment where truth dares to stand toe-to-toe with power, then hit subscribe. Join Harrison's stories and never miss history as it happens. The chamber had barely regained its fragile silence when Jasmine Crockett struck again, this time with precision. No hesitation, no buildup. She aimed straight for the jugular. "Mr. Trump," she began, her voice clear and cutting, "your presidency wasn't just chaotic, it was corrupt. Billions of dollars funneled into your own businesses. Foreign leaders renting your hotels to buy your favor. Donors purchasing access like it was a carnival ticket. You didn't serve America, you served yourself." The words hit like stone on glass. Gasps rippled through the hearing. Aides shifted in their seats, wide-eyed. Even the stenographer hesitated, hands trembling over the keys. Trump snapped upright, chair screeching against marble. "You lying witch!" he exploded, slamming his fist on the desk so hard a microphone jumped. "You don't know a damn thing about running a country. You're nothing but a loudmouth puppet desperate for attention." Shockwaves tore through the chamber. The chairman's gavel cracked again and again, but the noise drowned him out. Jasmine didn't blink. Her eyes locked on Trump with the steadiness of steel. "I know exactly what you are," she said, her words a blade. "A man who turned the Oval Office into his personal ATM. A man who sold out the very people he swore to protect." The audience erupted. Cameras flashed like lightning. Online, the clash spread like wildfire. Feeds flooded with headlines. "Crockett strikes Trump." "Unfiltered showdown." "Corruption laid bare." Trump's face darkened crimson. He jabbed a finger at her across the chamber. Each word spat like venom. "You call yourself a fighter for justice? You're a disgrace. A race-baiting fraud. Trash that doesn't belong in this chamber. Hell, doesn't belong in this country." The line landed like dynamite. Gasps, shouts, disbelief. The entire hall recoiled. On Twitter, hashtags roared into life. "Shocks racist Trump" and "Crockett, unstoppable" hit trending in minutes. Jasmine's expression never broke. When she spoke again, her voice was lower, sharper, an edge of cold fire. "You just proved my point. A bully who mistakes cruelty for strength. A racist who confuses intimidation with leadership. But today the mask is slipping, and the whole world is watching." A tremor ran through the chamber. Trump's jaw clenched, his breath sharp and shallow, his fist curling white against the desk. Jasmine pressed forward. "Let's talk about numbers. Over $1.6 billion in unexplained transactions during your presidency. Entire hotel floors rented out by foreign governments. Millions laundered through shell companies tied directly to your family. That's not governing, that's organized crime." The words thundered in the silence. Even the air felt heavy, each syllable crashing down like a gavel in its own right. Trump tried to laugh, but the sound cracked halfway. "Fake numbers, fake news. You and your corrupt media buddies invent lies and call it evidence. This is a witch hunt, and you're the witch." Jasmine's retort sliced back instantly. "It's not volume that makes me right, it's evidence. And evidence doesn't vanish just because you scream." The clash had become a test of will. Every word from Jasmine slammed down like a hammer. Every retort from Trump splintered into rage and denial. The chamber swayed between gasps and shouts, the tension stretching tight enough to snap. Online, clips flooded every corner of social media. Trump's racist outburst alone racked up 5 million views in under 10 minutes. Anchors on live television scrambled to keep up with a moment that defied precedent. Trump sneered, desperate to claw back ground. "You think you've trapped me? I built empires while you were screaming in the cheap seats. You're a nobody, a parasite trying to take down a giant." Jasmine didn't hesitate. "Then why does the giant sound so terrified of a parasite?" The room detonated. Applause, gasps, laughter, outrage, colliding into a storm so loud the chairman's shouts for order dissolved into futility. Trump slammed the desk again, veins bulging in his neck. "You're finished, Crockett. You hear me? Finished." But Jasmine's calm was unshakable. She leaned forward, her tone steady, almost surgical. No, Mr. President, for the first time in your life, you're the one on trial, and America is finally watching you squirm. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was electric, suffocating, alive with the weight of history. And in that silence, everyone knew. Jasmine Crockett had just drawn first blood. Trump leaned back in his chair, eyes narrowing to slits. The smirk returned, sharper this time, like a knife held at the wrong end. Well, he said slowly, savoring each word, look at little Jasmine, pretending to be a big shot. I've seen louder waitresses. I've seen tougher cheerleaders. You want to lecture me? Please. Your whole career is a footnote. Your life? A mess. Nobody even knew your name until you started screaming mine. Gasps rippled through the chamber. The insult wasn't about politics anymore. It was personal. Trump pressed harder. You're a disgrace in every way. Failed lawyer, failed leader, failed woman. Honestly, Jasmine, you should thank me. Without me, you'd be nothing but a loud mouth in an empty room. The crowd stiffened. The cameras zoomed in, hungry for the reaction. Even the air seemed to pause, as though daring Jasmine to falter. But she didn't. Not a blink, not a tremor. Instead, her lips curved into a razor-thin smile. Well, Donald, I guess I should thank you. After all, every clown needs an audience, and you've been playing that role beautifully for decades. Laughter rippled through the chamber. Trump's smirk faltered, just slightly. Jasmine stepped in harder, her tone slicing clean. You call me a failed lawyer. I didn't need to bankrupt casinos to pay my bills. I didn't need reality TV to trick people into thinking I was powerful. I built my name with work. You built yours with fraud. The room erupted again. Cameras flashed. Clips flew instantly online. Crockett flips, Trump's insults back on him. Trump's fist tightened against the desk. You're pathetic. Don't talk to me about fraud. You're nothing but a hypocrite. I've read about you, your family, your scandals. Don't act like you're some saint. You want to drag my life into the mud? Fine. Let's drag yours too. A hush swept the chamber. The crowd leaned forward, tension coiling like a spring. But Jasmine only leaned back, arms folded, eyes gleaming with disdain. Oh, please, the best you've got is recycling tabloid gossip? That's your grand counterattack? My God, Donald, I expected something original. But then again, originality was never your strong suit. Stealing and lying were. The chamber broke into scattered applause. The chairman's gavel pounded for order, but the moment was too big to contain. Trump snarled, You're lucky I'm even wasting my time with you. You're a nobody trying to stand in the ring with a heavyweight. I'd crush people like you before breakfast. Her answer came fast, sharp, lethal. Then why do you look so desperate, Donald? Heavyweights don't beg for attention. Heavyweights don't scream when they're cornered. Right now, you don't look like a giant. You look like a man terrified of a woman who won't bow down. The audience gasped, then cheered. The energy was electric, impossible to contain. Trump's face blazed red, his jaw clenching so tight the vein in his temple throbbed. He leaned forward, stabbing the air with his finger. You're trash, Crockett. Loud, angry trash. You don't scare me. You disgust me. Jasmine's reply was instant. Funny because disgust is all you've ever given this country. Racism, corruption, lies, layer upon layer. You disgust America every time you open your mouth. The room shook with shouts and claps. The confrontation had escalated into something raw, violent, unstoppable. This wasn't debate. This was combat. Every insult another strike, every retort another counterpunch. No one yielded, no one softened. And as the chamber seethed with energy, the outside world caught fire. Within 30 minutes, headlines blazed across the globe. Trump versus Crockett, the hearing that erupted into war. Political theater or verbal bloodbath. Crockett mocks Trump. World reacts. Networks broke into live coverage. Commentators shouted over one another. Memes flooded social media by the second. Inside the chamber, the two figures stood locked in verbal combat, circling each other with words sharper than steel. Neither willing to break, neither willing to blink. The air crackled with the sense that something irreversible had begun. It was no longer about politics. It was about survival, humiliation, and dominance. And the world, every eye, every screen, every heartbeat, was watching. Jasmine Crockett leaned forward, her fingers brushing over a neat stack of documents she had prepared. The papers were crisp, official, unassailable. With a swift motion, she slid them across the table, placing them squarely in front of Donald Trump. "Here," she said, voice sharp and steady, "your financial records, the deals, the shell companies, the foreign contracts. Every line traces back to you." Trump's face flushed a deep crimson. He slammed a hand down on the desk, rattling the microphone. "Lies, lies, this is all lies. You're fabricating, Crockett. You've got nothing." The chamber trembled under his rage. Pens scratched frantically. Cameras zoomed. The room had transformed into an arena, every observer holding their breath. But Jasmine's smile didn't waver. In fact, it widened slightly, just enough to be caught by the cameras. It was a smile of pure confidence, a silent declaration. "I am untouchable, and the truth is mine." Trump's gestures became more frantic. "Fake news, fabrication. You're a fraud yourself, lying to everyone in this room." Jasmine leaned back, her eyes locked on him, unblinking. "Fabrication?" she repeated, voice dripping with irony. "Donald, these are your own signatures, your own bank statements, your own emails. Fabrication is calling the sun dark when it shines." The room stirred like a storm gathering at sea. Every word was a punch, every retort a blow to Trump's pride. Journalists frantically typed, snapping photos, narrating the battle as though it were a war report. Trump's fists clenched on the desk, knuckles white. He spat words faster now, trying to drown the truth in noise. "Corrupt witch! You're trying to destroy me. You'll never survive." Jasmine, calm and lethal, leaned in. "Destroy you? No, Donald. I'm only unveiling what's already there. Every hidden transfer, every secret deal, every moment you thought you could hide behind lies." The cameras captured it all. The tremor in Trump's voice, the twitch in his eye, and Jasmine's composed, calculating expression. Her confidence was contagious. Every inch of the screen broadcast her dominance over the narrative. The audience online exploded. Within 10 minutes, hashtags flooded social media. Crockett exposes, Trump, and financial fraud. Comments poured in from all corners of the globe. People were stunned, riveted, unable to look away. Trump slammed his hand down again, muttering curses that echoed off the walls. "You think this changes anything? This is nothing. You don't scare me." "Salmini," Jasmine tilted her head, her smile sharper now. "Oh, I don't need to scare you, Donald. I need you to be honest. And honesty is the one thing you've never practiced." The chamber felt electrified. Every word was a strike, every retort a counterpunch. Members of the committee shifted uncomfortably in their seats, unable to process the tension, the audacity, the raw force of confrontation. Trump attempted a final attack, his voice rising into a roar. "You're a puppet, a political hack. You don't know power." Jasmine's gaze didn't waver. Her words were surgical. "You're right. I don't know power, but I know corruption when I see it. And the American people? They see it too." The room was silent for a heartbeat. Then murmurs grew into applause, faint at first, then swelling. Even Trump's most loyal aides had to acknowledge, just in their eyes, that the battlefield had shifted. The documents sat on the table like a loaded gun, every sheet a strike. Trump could yell, could curse, could attempt intimidation, but each move only highlighted his own exposure. Jasmine had turned his aggression against him. The hearing felt less like a formal proceeding and more like a gladiatorial arena. Every look, every sentence, every sigh carried weight. It was an exhibition of power, a clash of wills, a contest where only mastery of truth mattered. By the end of the first hour, the world outside the chamber was captivated. Every cable network, every live stream, every social media feed ran the clips over and over. Trump's furious attempts to discredit Jasmine were being replayed in slow motion. Her calm, confident smile became the defining image of the confrontation. The chamber, now electric and charged, seemed to shrink around the two adversaries. Jasmine sat back, letting the truth breathe. Trump's rage, red and boiling, contrasted sharply with her composure. Every second, every frame, was a punch. And yet Jasmine's control over the narrative made it impossible for Trump to land a counterblow that actually landed. History was happening in real time. And for anyone watching, the message was clear. Power can yell, power can threaten, but truth cuts through every lie. The battle wasn't over. But in that moment, Jasmine Crockett had not just confronted a president, she had slapped the truth across his face. Every shred of deceit had been challenged, every lie exposed. And if you want to witness the next shocking turn in this relentless clash of justice and power, keep watching Harrison's Stories, where history unfolds with every word. Trump slammed his fist down again, the echo reverberating through the chamber like a warning shot. "Enough!" he roared, voice cracking, eyes blazing. "You don't know what you're doing, Crockett. You're out of your league. I built this country. I ran this office, and you—" He leaned across the table, pointing a trembling finger. "You're a nobody trying to play at being a hero." The volume, the rage, the sheer presence was designed to overwhelm, to intimidate, to crush. But Jasmine didn't flinch. Not even an eyelash twitched. She leaned in, voice calm yet cutting, words measured like scalpel strikes. "Donald, intimidation isn't strength, volume isn't authority, and pointing fingers doesn't erase the facts staring everyone in the face." Trump bellowed, trying to cut her off mid-sentence. Pounding the desk, scattering papers. "You're disrespectful. You're rude. You have no idea how politics works." Her eyes narrowed. Her smile was ice. "You keep shouting, but the truth doesn't care about your noise. Every lie you've uttered, every deal you've hidden, every attempt to intimidate, it's all in the record, and I'm reading it aloud." He lunged forward, voice rising to a shriek. "You think logic scares me? You think clever words protect you? You'll regret this, Crockett. You'll regret thinking you can outsmart me." She tilted her head, exposing the first hint of amusement. "Outsmart you?" she said softly, letting each word land. "Donald, the only thing clever here is pointing out what's already obvious. And that's that you have no defense, no moral ground, no credibility left. Every attempt to shout over me only makes your guilt louder." The chamber seemed to shrink around them. Every gasp, every pen scratch, every camera shutter amplified the tension. The air was thick, electric, the kind of charged silence that precedes an explosion. Trump slammed the table again, nearly toppling his water glass. "You're attacking me personally," he roared. "You're a liar, a cheat, a fraud, and you think calling me names makes you right." Jasmine leaned back slightly, the picture of composed authority. "Donald, I'm not attacking. I'm exposing. Facts are not personal. They are immutable. And the more you scream, the more America sees what you really are. A man desperate to hide behind noise because he cannot defend his own actions." His fist trembled. His words became a staccato of rage, the cadence uneven, uncontrolled. You don't understand power. You've never had to fight. You've never built anything." She cut him off, voice sharp as a whip. "I understand enough to know that real power is responsibility, integrity, and truth. You've mastered none of these. You've only mastered lies, fear, and intimidation. And today, none of that works on me." The cameras captured every flicker of emotion. Trump's red face, his flaring nostrils, the twitch in his jaw. Jasmine's calm, poised demeanor was magnified across screens worldwide. The chamber became a gladiatorial arena. Every word from Trump was an attack. Every retort from Jasmine a surgical counter. The audience was held hostage by the rhythm of their confrontation. No pause, no mercy. Trump tried again, voice booming, trying to overwhelm with sheer volume. "You don't scare me. You can scream all day, Crockett. You won't break me." Her eyes narrowed, her words slow and deliberate. "Break you? I'm not here to break you, Donald. I'm here to show America exactly who you are. And with every sentence you throw in anger, you show them more than I ever could." The room erupted in whispers, gasps, and scattered applause. Online, streams spiked with millions watching simultaneously, captivated by the relentless verbal onslaught. Each insult, Each counter, each pointed logic blow was dissected by commentators, replayed in slow motion, turned into memes, shared endlessly. Trump slammed the table one last time, but even the aggression seemed weaker now. Jasmine leaned in, gaze steady, voice cold and precise. Every scream you emit is a confession. Every slam of your fist is evidence. Every insult is proof. You wanted a fight, Donald, but in a contest of truth versus noise, noise always loses. The chamber fell silent for a heartbeat, and in that moment, the scale had tipped. Trump's fury was still there, boiling beneath the surface, but Jasmine's words had cut through the chaos, piercing the shield of bluster and arrogance he carried for decades. Every viewer, every witness, every journalist knew they were watching something extraordinary, a battle not of fists, but of intellect, courage, and relentless clarity. And in that silence, thick with tension and unspoken anticipation, it was clear. Jasmine Crockett was not just holding her ground, she was dominating it. She leaned forward, folding her hands atop the stack of documents, eyes locked on Donald Trump. Her voice was steady, calm, but every syllable carried the weight of inevitability. "Mr. Trump," she said, "let's revisit the transaction you tried to hide last year. The one involving the offshore trust you claimed never existed." Trump's eyes flickered, a microsecond of hesitation. He opened his mouth, but no words came at first, only a sharp inhale. Jasmine pressed. "You testified previously that all your foreign dealings were above board. Yet here we have emails, contracts, and witnesses contradicting that claim. Can you explain why these documents exist?" The air in the chamber thickened. Every journalist leaned forward. Every camera zoomed. Even Trump's own aides shifted nervously in their seats, sensing a trap tightening around him. Trump's hand trembled slightly on the table. He tried to regain composure, raising his voice as if volume could cover the fissure opening beneath him. These are lies, fabrications. You're twisting the truth." But Jasmine didn't move. She didn't flinch. Her smile was almost imperceptible, the kind that signals a predator about to strike. "You're not answering, Donald," she said softly. "And yet the emails themselves speak volumes. They say what you won't." Trump's nostrils flared. He swallowed hard, eyes darting to the papers he wished he could erase. You don't understand. That deal." And in that moment, the words slipped. He leaned forward, voice cracking, eyes wide, panic dripping from every syllable. "That deal, it was complicated. We didn't." The chamber froze. Every head turned, every camera lens zoomed, every journalist held their breath. Trump had just, for the first time publicly, stumbled over the secret he had sworn to bury. Jasmine leaned in closer, her gaze razor sharp. "You just admitted it," she said, her voice low but lethal. "You just acknowledged the very act you've been hiding." "That's right, Donald. You just confessed." A heartbeat passed, then another, and the room erupted. Gasps, shouts, and stunned silence collided. Reporters typed furiously, microphones jostled, and live streams went viral before the second sentence had finished echoing. Trump's face turned redder than a warning light. He slammed his hands down on the table, trying to recover, trying to reclaim control, but it was too late. The trap had snapped and he was caught inside. Jasmine's lips curved slightly, a predator's smile, calm, confident, untouchable. "Every lie you told, every effort to mislead this chamber, undone by your own words, every excuse shredded in the light of truth." Trump's voice rose to a roar, but the words were hollow now. "Fake! Lies! This is unfair. You..." But no one heard him. The audience inside and outside the chamber was fixated, mesmerized, almost vibrating with the sheer audacity of what had just occurred. Jasmine continued, deliberate, each word a surgical strike. "Mr. President, you have spent your career trying to dominate the narrative, to bend facts to your will. But the truth doesn't bend, it doesn't bow. And today it has spoken through you." The chamber was a storm of noise. Phones snapping photos, pens scratching, whispers ricocheting off the walls. Every reporter, every cameraman, every member of the public watching knew This was a knockout. Trump's fist pounded the desk once more, a desperate attempt to claim the room. This is ridiculous. I didn't. Jasmine interrupted, voice cold and precise. Yes, you did. And you just admitted it. The effect was seismic. The tension that had been building for hours snapped into a climax. Every gasp, every heartbeat, every camera shutter felt amplified tenfold. The documents on the table, the emails, the contracts, the official records, were no longer just papers. They were weapons. Each one, a nail in the coffin of Trump's attempted denial. Jasmine leaned back slightly, letting the weight of the moment sink in, her eyes never leaving his. You tried to hide. You tried to lie. But the facts always find a way. And today the facts have delivered judgment before any gavel falls. The chamber, now buzzing with energy and disbelief, felt smaller. Every person inside sensed the magnitude of what had just transpired. History had been made not through violence, not through politics, but through a verbal and intellectual knockout. Trump's face was a storm of anger, humiliation, and disbelief. The confidence he had carried into the room now faltered under the sheer force of Jasmine's strategy. And outside the chamber, the world went wild. Streams surged, hashtags trended, news anchors stuttered in awe, and millions witnessed the unthinkable. A president caught in his own web, undone by a relentless pursuit of truth. For Jasmine Crockett, the moment was clear. Every move, every word, every glance had been calculated. The trap was laid, the punch was thrown, and Trump, in his panic, had delivered it himself. It was a knockout, not with fists, not with violence, but with intellect, precision, and unyielding courage. The chamber erupted. History had a new headline: Crockett's verbal KO. And every eye, every screen, every heartbeat was watching history unfold. Trump's face had turned crimson, veins throbbing in his temples. His breath came fast, shallow, ragged, like a storm about to break. You ungrateful little, he bellowed, voice rising to a pitch that made the chandeliers tremble. Liar, cheat, hypocrite. You don't know power. You don't know America. Every word he spat was venomous, personal and low, an attempt to drag Jasmine into a pit of degradation. The chamber shuddered under the force of his rage. Papers rattled. Microphones shook. Some aides took instinctive steps back, uncertain where to flee. Security personnel tightened their stance, scanning the room for any sudden escalation. Even seasoned journalists exchanged uneasy glances, sensing they were witnessing a man unravel in real time. But Jasmine Crockett stood unwavering. Her back was straight, shoulders squared, chin high. Every syllable from Trump ricocheted off her composure, powerless to pierce her calm. She leaned forward slightly, voice crisp, deliberate. The more you scream, Donald, the more clearly you expose yourself. Every insult, every curse, every desperate attempt to intimidate proves that I'm on the right track. You can rage all you want. It won't change the facts. Trump's fist slammed onto the desk again, sending papers flying like shards of evidence across the floor. You think this makes you strong? You think this makes you clever? You're nothing. A weak, pathetic little lawyer trying to destroy me. Jasmine's gaze never wavered. Her eyes held a quiet, devastating intensity. Nothing, she said softly, almost teasingly. Donald, the only thing pathetic here is your inability to face accountability. I stand here because truth matters. You flail because lies are all you've ever known. The chamber seemed to vibrate with the clash of their energies. On one side, a man consumed by fury, his voice a weapon of intimidation. On the other, a woman radiating calm authority, her words like precise scalpel strikes, cutting through bluster and blinding rage. Trump's shouts escalated into incoherent tirades. You corrupt, miserable. You think you can humiliate me in front of the world? You. He jabbed his finger across the table, trembling with desperation, spittle flying from each word. Jasmine, unmoved, tilted her head slightly, lips curved in that razor-thin smile. Donald, every curse you hurl, every insult you spew, every desperate flail strengthens my point. You're proving to the nation exactly who you are. And it's not impressive. The crowd in the chamber shifted, murmurs spreading like wildfire. Some gasped. Some laughed nervously. The tension had reached a point where even the security detail could barely contain the energy in the room. Trump leaned forward, voice raw with frustration and panic, eyes wild. "You don't scare me. I've survived worse than you. Jasmine interrupted, her words calm, icy, precise. "Scare me? No, Donald, you can't scare me. But you can show the world the consequences of dishonesty, arrogance, and unchecked rage, and that you do spectacularly well." The contrast could not have been starker. One side explosive fury, chaotic, uncontrollable. The other deliberate, steady, unyielding. It was a visual and verbal battle of extremes, a study in dominance versus restraint. Cameras captured every twitch, every flare of anger, every quiet, cutting word. Online streams erupted as millions watched the spectacle unfold, transfixed. Comments flooded in. "She's untouchable. He's losing it completely. This is history in motion." Trump's voice grew louder, almost desperate, shaking with every syllable. "You think you're clever? You think you're smart? You're a disgrace, a weak little—" Jasmine leaned forward, cutting through the chaos with surgical precision. "The only disgrace here is your refusal to own your actions, your inability to face the consequences of your own decisions. And you, through every outburst, prove it to everyone watching." The chamber trembled with energy. Every shout from Trump was a missed opportunity. Every calm retort from Jasmine was a hit, precise and unrelenting. Even as he tried to regain some semblance of control, his words became more fragmented, more desperate. You're nothing. You're a joke. She didn't let him finish. She didn't need to. Her presence, her calm and her words had already won the silent battle of authority. The audience, journalists, and millions online understood the truth. One side ruled with panic and anger, the other with intellect and poise. Jasmine's final words in the exchange cut like a dagger. "Donald, the more you yell, the clearer it becomes. I'm not the one losing control. You are. And history will remember exactly who stood firm when the truth demanded courage." The chamber fell into a stunned hush. Even Trump's aides looked away, sensing the tide had irrevocably shifted. And outside, across the world, millions of viewers watched the drama unfold. It was chaos versus control, fury versus resolve, bluster versus truth. And one image would burn into memory: a man consumed by rage, a woman standing tall, unshaken, victorious in her poise. History wasn't just happening. It was etched into the air, into every screen, into every mind watching. Suddenly, a murmur rippled through the chamber. All eyes turned to the entrance as a figure stepped forward, someone unexpected. An official witness, hand trembling, slightly but eyes steady, walked toward the table, documents clutched in a firm grip. "I can verify," the witness began, voice clear and unwavering. "Everything Ms. Crockett has presented, every document, every email, every transaction is accurate. I was present, I have records, and I can attest to the truth of her claims." The room fell silent, stunned by the sudden appearance. Trump's eyes widened, his hand gripping the edge of the table as if it could anchor him to reality. "Lies, lies, this is all fabrication. You're lying," Trump bellowed, turning to the witness, his voice a mixture of panic and fury. "You have no idea what you're saying. This is false. Disgusting. How dare you?" The witness ignored the outburst, placing their documents next to Jasmine's stack. Photos, receipts, signed agreements, irrefutable proof, every piece matching her prior claims. The papers practically glowed under the bright chamber lights, each one a strike against Trump's desperate denials. Jasmine's lips curved in a subtle, confident smile. She leaned forward, voice calm, slicing through the chaos. "Donald, you can shout, you can curse, you can attempt to intimidate anyone in this room, but the facts are not intimidated, and the witness confirms what I have been saying all along." Trump slammed a fist down, making the desk tremble. "You corrupt fools, you're all in on this. You're trying to destroy me with lies, conspiracy, fake testimony. The witness lifted their chin, unwavering. I am not lying. These are the records. You can dispute them all you want, sir, but the truth doesn't care about your insults. Gasps and murmurs spread through the audience. The contrast was undeniable. One man losing control, frothing with rage. The other, a woman standing unwavering, backed by undeniable evidence and a steadfast witness. Trump's voice rose to a scream. You're pathetic, every one of you, lying for her. Crooked witch. You have no idea who you're dealing with. Jasmine remained composed, leaning back slightly but never breaking eye contact. Donald, shouting doesn't erase the truth. Threatening witnesses doesn't undo facts. And attempting to smear integrity with your rage won't change history. The people watching can see clearly who is honest and who is trying to hide behind anger. The camera zoomed in on the witness as they nodded, confirming every point, reinforcing every detail of Jasmine's accusations. The effect was immediate. Even some of Trump's staunchest supporters in the chamber began to shift uneasily in their seats. Whispers began circulating. She's right. The proof is there. Trump slammed his hands down again, red-faced and trembling. You think this makes you heroes? You think this destroys me? You have no idea who you're messing with. Jasmine's voice, cold and unyielding, cut through the roar. Donald, I am not trying to destroy anyone. I am exposing what has already been exposed by the facts. Your rage cannot alter reality, nor can it erase the evidence presented today. Every eye in the chamber was glued to the unfolding drama. Cameras captured the stark contrast. Trump, wild-eyed, a man unraveling before a nation. Jasmine, steady, precise, and radiant in her control. The audience online exploded with commentary. The feeds flooded with reactions. Nanner, Crockett wins. Arna, justice prevails. Eonar, Trump exposed. Trump's hands were shaking, voice cracking, fury barely contained. You lie, you cheat. You're manipulating. Everything is manipulation. I built everything. But Jasmine interrupted, voice slicing through the chaos. You built what you could steal and manipulate, Donald. But today, every lie, every manipulation has been revealed. The witness confirms the truth. Your attempts to shout, intimidate, and smear are powerless against facts. The chamber seemed to hold its breath. Even the security personnel relaxed slightly, sensing that the immediate danger had shifted. The energy of confrontation was no longer wild chaos. It was a demonstration of precision and control. Trump's furious bluster continued, but it had lost its punch. Every insult ricocheted off the armor of truth and witness-backed evidence. The room's attention, once tense and uncertain, began to favor Jasmine. Her composure, her clarity, her relentless pursuit of justice. She leaned back, allowing the witness to hand over the final pieces of corroborating evidence. The chamber murmured in awe. Trump, chest heaving, sputtered in disbelief. The message was unmistakable. The warrior of justice was not just surviving, she was winning. And outside, across every screen, millions watched as the tide of power shifted in real time. Trump's anger was exposed. Jasmine's command of the facts, her unwavering poise, and the confirmation from an ally had solidified her dominance in the chamber. It was no longer a debate, it was a reckoning. And history was taking notes, every second of it, etched into the consciousness of the world. Trump's eyes blazed with a new kind of fury, desperation overtaking his usual bluster. He slammed a thick folder onto the table, the sound like a gunshot in the tense chamber. These, he roared, voice ragged, are the real documents. Proof of her corruption, her lies, her deceit. The American people deserve the truth, and I am giving it to them. He waved the papers wildly, shoving them toward the cameras, toward the witness, toward Jasmine. The chamber's energy shifted instantly. Gasps, murmurs. The tension thickened, tangible, suffocating. Jasmine Crockett's lips curved in the faintest, knowing smile. She leaned forward, flipping through the papers with a practiced, deliberate motion. Her eyes scanned each page, noting every inconsistency, every falsified signature, every manipulated figure. Donald, she said, voice low, deliberate, lethal in its calmness. These are forgeries, fabricated, altered. You've presented fake evidence in an attempt to discredit me. A hush fell over the chamber, broken only by the soft rustle of paper and Trump's ragged breathing. He froze, momentarily stunned. Lies! Lies! You're twisting them! You... Jasmine's smile widened slightly, ice-cold and triumphant. Look closely, she said, holding the papers up for the cameras. Every signature is inconsistent. Every document contradicts public records. Every claim you're making is false. You're not presenting truth. You're presenting your desperation. The effect was immediate and electric. The audience erupted into murmurs that quickly became shouts. Fraud! Fake! Liar! Trump's face turned a deeper shade of crimson, veins pulsing visibly on his forehead. He slammed both fists on the table, rattling microphones. You don't understand. You don't know power. You think this exposes me? I built. But the chamber no longer listened in uncertainty. The witness who had stepped forward earlier shook their head, confirming Jasmine's claim with a single nod. Yes, they said clearly, voice strong and unwavering. These documents were altered. I can attest that these are not genuine. The room reacted like an electric shock. Shouts of protest, disbelief, and outrage filled the space. Journalists scrambled to update live streams. Social media feeds exploded. Millions of viewers worldwide watched the unraveling spectacle with rapt attention. Trump's voice escalated, raw with panic, desperation dripping from every word. Disgusting, corrupt, crooked. You're all in this. Trying to destroy me, destroy America. Lies, lies. He jabbed at the air, pointed at the witness, waved the papers violently, trying to regain control. But every gesture, every scream, only reinforced his unraveling credibility. Jasmine leaned back slightly, eyes unwavering, voice calm, sharp, and deliberate. Donald, your desperation is clear. Your lies, your attempts to manipulate the narrative, your threats, all of it is transparent. Every viewer can see that your rage is fueled by guilt, not truth, and the evidence proves it. The audience, both inside the chamber and online, erupted. Shouts of exposed and fraud echoed, drowning out Trump's panicked rambling. Cameras captured every detail. Trump flailing, shouting, losing his composure, and Jasmine's calm, piercing gaze that cut through the chaos like a blade. Trump pounded the table again, almost toppling his chair. You don't understand. You'll regret this. You're trying to ruin me. You... Jasmine stood slowly, her posture straight, commanding the chamber without raising her voice. Donald, it's not about regret. It's about accountability. You've tried to manipulate, intimidate, and fabricate. Every action, every fake document, every insult only proves that you cannot hide from the truth. And now, everyone sees it. The contrast was stark, undeniable. One side, a man consumed by rage, cornered like a predator whose prey had escaped. The other, a woman poised, intelligent, and unwavering, turning his fury into evidence of his own guilt. Trump's shouting reached a frenzy. Liar! Cheater! Witch! You're trying to destroy everything I built! But the chamber no longer responded with fear. Instead, the audience's reaction reinforced Jasmine's dominance. The witness's confirmation, coupled with the falsified documents, had turned the tide. Every online feed, every news broadcast, every live viewer knew the truth. The warrior of justice was winning. Trump's desperation, once a source of intimidation, had become a spectacle of collapse, every outburst undermining his own credibility. Jasmine's calm, precise authority dominated the room. She let the evidence speak, let the witness confirm, and let Trump's own panic amplify the lesson. When confronted with truth, no amount of rage, fabrication, or intimidation can prevail. The chamber's energy shifted completely. Trump, now trembling with frustration and fury, was a man trapped in his own web. Jasmine, confident, composed, and relentless, had turned every desperate move into proof of her victory, and outside the world watched in awe. The narrative had been seized. The message had been delivered. Truth, backed by evidence and courage, had cut through the storm of lies. Trump's eyes burned with a new kind of desperation, one that transcended mere anger. He rose from his seat abruptly, voice thundering across the chamber. Supporters, patriots, stand up! Witness the corruption! Fight back against these lies! His words weren't just noise. They were a call to action, a direct appeal to the most extreme elements in the room. The air thickened instantly. Security personnel tensed, hands hovering over radios, eyes scanning every exit and entrance. The chamber vibrated with the tension of a powder keg, seconds from ignition. Jasmine Crockett didn't flinch. Her eyes locked onto Trump, steady, piercing, unyielding. She leaned forward slightly, voice low but cutting, carrying across the room. Donald, all you have is yelling. All you know is threats. There is no truth in your words, no evidence, no integrity, nothing but noise. And today, everyone sees that. Trump slammed his fists onto the desk, shaking the papers, rattling microphones. You think you're brave? You think you can defy me? I built this country. I am the voice of millions. But Jasmine cut him off, her words sharper than any gavel could strike. You are the voice of lies, Donald. You built nothing with honesty. You shout because the truth terrifies you. Every attempt to intimidate will fail because facts cannot be shouted down. The tension in the chamber was suffocating. Sweat beaded on aides' foreheads. Journalists leaned forward, gripping their notebooks. Cameras zoomed in on every twitch, every flare of anger, every tight clench of a jaw. Outside, millions of live viewers felt their own hearts race, as though standing in the room themselves. Trump's face turned crimson, veins pulsing violently as he pointed at the security detail. Do you hear me? Stand aside. Don't let these liars take control. Patriots, we will not be silenced. Security tightened, weapons holstered but ready, each officer aware that the situation teetered on the edge of chaos. The room seemed to pulse with raw energy, fear, outrage, disbelief, and the almost tangible smell of impending violence. Jasmine leaned back, hands folded calmly atop her documents. Her voice calm yet venomous, cut through the din like a blade. Donald, threats don't impress. Intimidation doesn't intimidate me. You can scream at security, at witnesses, at the nation itself, but words without truth are powerless, and you have nothing left but empty noise. Trump's hands shook as he banged the table again. You don't understand. I will not be humiliated. You will regret this. Security, listen to me. The chamber collectively held its breath. Even the most hardened journalists were on edge. Every frame on every camera seemed charged, vibrating with tension, as though the air itself were electrified. Jasmine's voice rose, unwavering, cutting like a lance through the chaos. Donald, you've already been humiliated. Every lie has been exposed, every fabricated document revealed, every desperate attempt to rally the frightened has failed, and yet here you stand, raging like a man who has run out of options. You are cornered, and everyone can see it. The contrast was stark, undeniable. Trump, a storm of fury and panic, voice shrill with desperation, flailing with threats and false bravado. Jasmine, composed, sharp, a pillar of calm authority in the eye of the hurricane. Cameras captured every detail, the tremor in Trump's hands, the redness of his face, the wild glare in his eyes. Meanwhile, Jasmine's steady posture, piercing gaze, and unbroken calm were broadcast across millions of screens worldwide. Trump tried one last desperate maneuver, voice cracking, yelling toward the chamber and the cameras. You think you've won? You think you can control history? Patriots, you know the truth. Stand up. Fight back. Jasmine responded instantly, every word a surgical strike. Donald, history isn't controlled by screams or threats. History is controlled by truth, courage, and evidence. You have none of these. Every attempt to incite chaos only proves your failure. The nation sees it, the world sees it, and the truth will endure. The room erupted, not in chaos, but in realization. Whispers, gasps, murmurs of awe and disbelief filled the chamber. Reporters leaned forward, voices caught in their throats, capturing the moment live. This was unprecedented. Even as Trump shouted and flailed, the energy of control had shifted irreversibly. The chamber, once teetering on the brink of violence, now felt the weight of Jasmine's authority pressing down, unyielding, undeniable, inescapable. The press would call it later the unprecedented hearing, a moment where history and spectacle collided, where truth faced fury, calm faced chaos, and courage faced intimidation, where one woman armed with facts and resolve stood unshakable while the loudest man in America spiraled into desperation. And though Trump raged, threatened, and screamed, the world outside and inside the chamber knew one thing with certainty. Jasmine Crockett had not just survived. She had asserted dominance. She had drawn the line. And nothing, no volume, no threats, no crowd, no fury, could shake her from it. The chamber trembled with tension, hearts pounded, and yet in the eye of this storm, the truth shone brighter than ever. History would remember this day, this confrontation, this unflinching stand. Jasmine Crockett's fingers brushed across the top of the final folder she had been holding, a sleek, black binder that seemed almost ceremonial in its weight. She opened it slowly, deliberately, letting the chamber and the cameras catch the moment. Inside were the ultimate proofs: emails, signed statements, financial records, and photos, each meticulously verified, each piece undeniable. The room felt as though it collectively inhaled, waiting. Trump's eyes, wild and burning with panic, darted toward the binder. He recognized immediately the gravity of what was being revealed, the weight of evidence so unassailable it could crush even the most brazen of lies. Jasmine's voice, calm and deliberate, echoed through the chamber. This is the final piece. Every action, every transaction, every word that was hidden, now laid bare. The American people deserve truth, and the evidence speaks for itself. Trump's face drained of color, his usual bluster evaporating under the intensity of scrutiny. His lips moved, but the words came out weak, fragmented, like a man flailing in a storm. Lies. All lies. Fabricated. You can't. You're... Each utterance faltered, each curse weaker than the last. He had no words strong enough to withstand the proof that now towered over him like an unscalable wall. For the first time in the entire confrontation, he seemed small, diminished, cornered. Jasmine lifted the binder slightly, allowing the cameras to capture every detail. The truth cannot be shouted down, Donald. It cannot be obscured by anger, intimidation, or desperate appeals to false loyalty. You see, the facts exist independent of your words. And the people watching now, everywhere in the world, are seeing exactly what you've tried to hide. The chamber erupted in a mixture of awe, disbelief, and roaring approval. Reporters scrambled. Live feeds captured every twitch of Trump's expression. Social media exploded. Shuddered truth wins, shuddered Crockett victory, shuddered Trump exposed. The man who had once wielded influence like a weapon now appeared like a defeated actor, fumbling through a script he could no longer control. Trump's gestures became frantic, almost cartoonish in their desperation. He jabbed at the papers, spat insults, and shook his fists, but each action only reinforced the narrative of his collapse. Fraud! Witch! You can't... You don't... You're... But the chamber and the world heard only the weak echoes of a man stripped of credibility. Jasmine stood taller, back straight, chin high. The lights above seemed to converge, casting her in a sharp, commanding glow. Every shadow fell behind her. Every line of her face hardened with authority. She was no longer just a lawyer or a fighter. She was the embodiment of justice, standing victorious. She paused, letting the silence stretch, letting the cameras, the chamber, and the millions of viewers online absorb the moment. Then, with a quiet authority that resonated louder than any scream, Donald, you have lost this battle, not because I am stronger, but because the truth always finds its way. Every lie, every fabrication, every desperate attempt to manipulate has been revealed. And now, there is no place to hide. Trump slumped slightly in his chair, the fight draining from his posture. His hands trembled, his face slackened, his voice a whisper compared to the fury that had once erupted from him like a tempest. You can't understand. It's not fair. The witness who had corroborated Jasmine's claims earlier stepped closer, reaffirming the final points. Yes, they said simply, voice steady. Everything here is verified. This is the truth. The chamber seemed suspended in time. The cacophony of prior chaos had vanished, replaced by a collective realization. The unthinkable had occurred. Trump, a man who had attempted to dominate the narrative with intimidation, rage, and lies, was undone by nothing more than unassailable facts and a woman's unwavering courage. Jasmine's gaze swept the room, meeting eyes with reporters, security, colleagues, and even Trump himself. She did not gloat. She did not taunt. Her victory was quiet, absolute, and undeniable. Trump's weak muttering continued, almost lost beneath the murmur of the chamber. He had become a shadow of the forceful, commanding figure who had entered that day. Every word he had once wielded like a weapon now fell flat, impotent, consumed by the clarity of evidence. Jasmine closed the binder slowly, the sound resonating like a gavel striking the bench of history. The world watched, captivated, riveted, unable to look away. This was the moment. Trump undone, not by political maneuvering, not by negotiation, but by the relentless, precise force of truth. And in that moment, she didn't just win the hearing, she won history. Every camera, every screen, every eye bore witness to the fall of a titan and the rise of a warrior of justice. The room held its collective breath as Trump slumped further, muttering weakly, defeated. Jasmine stood tall, unbroken, triumphant, a living testament that courage, preparation, and truth could overcome even the most formidable opposition. History had been written in those moments. The world would not forget the day a woman turned lies into proof of accountability, a tyrant's fury into evidence of failure, and a hearing into a spectacle of righteous triumph. And as cameras captured her victorious silhouette, backlit and unwavering, the message was clear. Truth had prevailed and justice had stood firm. The room erupted once more, but this time the noise was different. It wasn't chaos, it wasn't fear, it was the roar of vindication. The committee chair, solemn yet firm, banged the gavel and announced, voice cutting through the residual tension. Based on the overwhelming evidence presented and the irrefutable testimony confirmed by multiple witnesses, the recommendation for prosecution is hereby submitted. A hush fell, the weight of history pressing on every shoulder in the chamber. Trump's face contorted in disbelief, rage, and panic, a volatile cocktail of emotions exposed for the world to see. His lips quivered, words failing to form coherent sentences. You can't. This isn't. I did. But the declarations had already been made. The world outside, watching on millions of screens, understood immediately. This was the fall of a figure who had seemed untouchable, undone not by rumor, not by politics, but by the uncompromising force of truth and evidence. Jasmine Crockett, however, remained untouched by the frenzied storm behind her. She rose from her seat, each step measured, each movement deliberate, radiating calm authority. Her eyes swept across the room, taking in every camera, every reporter, every witness. The weight of her victory was visible, not just in the documents she had wielded, but in the way she carried herself. Commanding, dignified, unstoppable. As she stepped into the corridor, the press surged forward. Microphones thrust toward her, cameras clicked endlessly, flashes illuminating her resolute expression. Reporters shouted questions, but she walked steadily, a beacon of focus amid the storm. From behind, Trump's voice rang out, desperate and frenzied, a ghost of authority that once was, "You're all fools. This is a witch hunt. You have no idea what you're doing. Pathetic, corrupt." But the sound was drowned, swallowed by the chorus of cheers from journalists, onlookers, and supporters who had been waiting outside. "Crockett! Crockett! Justice! Truth! Truth! Victory!" The chants rose like a wave, crashing against the corridors, echoing off walls, filling every corner with undeniable celebration. She raised a hand, a slight acknowledging gesture, not of arrogance, but of gratitude and resolve. Every flash, every shout, every camera lens seemed to capture not just a woman, but a symbol of justice, of courage, of relentless pursuit of truth. Trump's attempts to regain control were feeble. His shouts grew quieter, more ragged, more fragmented, as if the air itself rejected the lies he tried to force upon it. Corruption, fake, you'll regret, but it was too late. The narrative had shifted irreversibly. Every attempt at intimidation, every desperate plea for loyalty, every fabric of falsehood had collapsed under the weight of unassailable evidence. Jasmine walked through the sea of press, the cacophony of microphones and shouted questions merging into a rhythm she seemed to command by mere presence. Each step carried purpose. Each gaze exuded confidence. She was not just moving forward physically, she was advancing the ideals she had fought for: transparency, accountability, justice. Outside the chamber, the streets buzzed with spectators following every live feed, their faces lit by screens, their hearts racing with each revelation. Social media erupted in waves. Where justice Crockett, where truth prevails, or accountability now. The entire nation, the world even, bore witness to a spectacle that would be etched in history textbooks. And through it all, Jasmine paused once, glanced back toward the chamber where Trump sat slumped, defeated, muttering weakly in frustration. A single sentence, clear, sharp, carried across both the microphones and millions of screens. Truth can be shouted at, it can be insulted, it can be mocked, but it cannot be buried. And today, justice has risen. The words resonated, reverberating through the minds of every viewer, every journalist, every citizen watching in awe. Trump's voice became inconsequential, a whisper lost in the thunder of accountability and the celebration of justice. Photographers captured the moment. Jasmine framed by light, the binder of evidence clasped firmly, eyes fierce yet composed, standing at the pinnacle of a battle that had consumed hours, captured attention worldwide, and left a mark on history. The chants of Crockett, Crockett, justice carried her forward, down the corridor, out into the world beyond the chamber. Every step she took reinforced a singular message. Courage, clarity, and commitment to truth could overcome even the most fearsome opposition. The magnitude of her victory wasn't in defeating a single man, but in demonstrating to the world that power without accountability could not endure. And in the distance, Trump's shouts faded, swallowed by the overwhelming sound of celebration, validation, and triumph. He had lost, not to strategy, not to charisma, but to truth itself. Jasmine emerged from the chamber into the light, greeted by an ocean of cameras, questions, and supporters. The air pulsed with energy, exhilaration, and awe. She raised her hand, acknowledging the crowd, a warrior who had fought not for glory, but for justice, integrity, and the undeniable power of truth. And as the roar of the crowd filled the air, one truth became undeniable. Truth can be cursed, insulted, and maligned, but it cannot be buried, it cannot be silenced, and it will always rise. History had witnessed a reckoning. Justice had been served, and Jasmine Crockett had stood, unwavering, victorious, and eternal in that light. In the end, truth proved stronger than rage, integrity mightier than intimidation, and courage more enduring than fear. Jasmine Crockett's stand reminds us that justice is not won through noise or power, but through steadfast conviction, relentless honesty, and unwavering moral clarity. Each of us in our own lives holds the capacity to confront falsehood, to act with courage, and to champion what is right, even when the world seems hostile. Let this be a call. Speak boldly, act justly, and let the light of truth guide every choice you make. If this battle for truth moved you, don't scroll past. Sit with it. Talk about it. Share it. Let the courage of justice echo. Like, comment, and send it to someone who believes integrity still matters. Subscribe to Harrison Stories, where lies are exposed and no falsehood goes unchallenged. Hit the bell, because the next confrontation will push limits, question power, and reveal more than anyone dares to imagine. This story is a fictional dramatization inspired by real struggles for justice and the courage to confront corruption. Any resemblance to actual people or events is coincidental or symbolic for reflection and critique. Thanks for watching. Truth isn't whispered, it's demanded. This is Harrison Stories.